Welcome into another episode of The Drive. My name is Andy Lack. I'm joined as always by Geoff Fienberg. We're heading to Vegas this week, Jeffrey, on the PGA Tour for the Shriners Hospital for Children's Open. Before we get started on that, want to mention, as always, we are running our weekly odds checker contest. You can find all of the info for that in the link in the description to this video. It is easy to sign up. As always, big cash prizes are always in play for you every week. A ton of opportunity, as we have come to learn, Jeffrey, this fall swing. I have not lost a bet this fall swing yet through 3 weeks. So it's only downhill from here, but let's try and keep the momentum going this week in Vegas.
You are on fire. I know. Yeah, bring the heater into Vegas. That could be dangerous, but Sahith, a dominant Ryder Cup performance, tail that into Luke List. So here we are in Vegas. Andy's on the heater. I'm certainly frothing at the mouth to know how he's gonna take a shot at this. I don't know whether to call it a hat trick. The Ryder Cup between the Rory and the Max Homa almost counts as like you've already had the hat trick. To be honest, so I don't know what we're calling it.
Yeah.
Andy is on fire. We are in Vegas. Remind people, I know distance isn't that big of a deal here. You'd rather be in the fairway. Scoring is going to be crazy low, but we got some desert golf.
Yeah, I would say that in terms of like what kind of category this golf course falls into, this is very similar to a lot of those wedges and track meet, accelerator on the gas at all times golf courses. We saw Tom Kim win last year at -24. You're probably going to have to shoot -5, maybe -6 over the first 2 weeks or the first 2 days to even make the weekend, which is why I would say I don't know if I'm going to be as tempted as I normally would with the talent at the top this week, Geoff, just based on the volatile nature of this golf course, the way that this kind of devalues a little bit of the skill that a player like Ludwig has, and it turns a lot into wedges, who makes the most putts from 5 to 15 feet this week. So as we start at the top, we're looking at Tom Kim as our defending champion, 11-1 on the odds checker golf crig. Ludwig right behind him in that 12-1, 14-1 zone. Cameron Davis and Siwoo Kim in the 20s. Anyone catching your attention at the very top?
Like last week, Andy, nothing at the very top. Like you acknowledge it can be quite volatile. It can be quite volatile here. Last year, I believe when we were here, it was just in this run of like favorites were winning everything. Didn't matter whether it was swing season or playoffs or the end of season. Like I feel like through the swing season last year, it was like Max Homa and Tom Kim winning the event. So I like that we got a bit of a different feel this year. And while I swung and missed last year, fading Tom Kim, I feel like I'm going to do that again. I'm going to not have a bet below 30-1. I can confidently say that.
I'm with you. I like Tom Kim a lot this week, maybe more for a DraftKings perspective. I don't really think that at 11-1, I have that temptation and on a golf course that is so dependent on putting. Kind of the same goes for Ludwig. I don't know, Geoff, have you ever hopped 3 time zones before in 10 days? We're talking Rome, Mississippi, Vegas. I get it, man. Travel's comfortable. We're 24 years old, but
yeah, I'm not 24. My body is sore. Temperatures are dipping on the Northeast. It is full like toque season, especially on those late night, early morning dog walks. That being said, I would argue like the Ryder Cup is so emotionally high and draining that everything that's sort of come after this is like chill mode. Despite the time differences, it's just such a more relaxed atmosphere where it's like so less heightened. I don't even need to get into that, where maybe that can sort of aid the extreme run that he's on. It's not like we're going elevated event into major sort of thing. And he seems to be loving it and excited to be playing on the PGA Tour. and he still seems so young that he's just enjoying the accommodations that come with it. But it is a big ask. If anyone, he's answered every question thus far. Wouldn't shock me one bit if, like last week, he's just simply contending again.
Real quick aside, because I know you're a Ludwig guy. Do you know where he's based out of? Is he like a Dallas guy, a Scottsdale guy? Where does he does he have a home yet in
Okay,
the
where
United
does
States?
all I know is I think him and Vincent Norman still live together. So I'm not sure.
I asked the question because you get so many guys in the field this week that are Vegas guys that I didn't want to sleep on the fact that I just want to be sure on where Ludwig makes his home. I can effort that while you maybe talk about some of the guys in the 30s, but I was just curious on that because I know there's so many guys in the field this week that are, you get the sleep in your own bed situation.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, listen, I could do a whole like deep dive, get to know him, ask 30 questions, sort of find it out. I'm not sure. He's such a baby. We all know he went to school at Texas Tech, and as he's making money, I assume like most tour pros, it's Dallas, Arizona, Florida.
He's Florida.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's already making enough money that I think it's time to just move to Florida, be part of the crew. He's in that world and enjoying it. So back to this board, Andy, as we get past those big two, Cam Davis, JT Poston are names that pop on the odds checker grid. A lot of love for Adam Schenk. You mentioned a lot in your sort of description as to what it should take here. Adam Schenk seems like an ideal fit, and sticking in the, I guess, that Ryder Cup mode. It's Højgaard's turn to start playing some PGA Tour golf, and I would say Højgaard is a player that I could have some interest in this week in that 35 to 1 range, as well as Tom Hoge. Would go that, and I could go farther, but for some reason I'm running out of breath.
I love Hoge as well. I love Schenk as well. Both are very Schenk I've already bet. Hoagie's in close consideration for me. I would add JT Poston and Andrew Putnam both to the mix in that 35 to 45 range. Scanning through the odds checker grid, I bet Poston this morning at 35 to 1. I believe a 35 is still available on DraftKings. Putnam, I bet at 45 to 1 this morning. I believe 40s are still widely available on Putnam as well. Both players just fit the perfect kind of course mold that we are looking for in terms of elite bent grass putters who are unbelievable from 5 to 15 feet and from 100 to 150 yards. If we want to distill the formula that I'm looking for this week, it would be those two things. Who is the best from 100 to 150 yards? Who is the best from 5 to 15 feet? I think that will be the story that we tell at the end of this tournament. Putnam and Poston, two guys, very specific players, very specific skill sets. You only want to trot them out on certain courses. This is absolutely one of those courses, Geoff.
I am definitely could be all aboard that Andrew Putnam train this week. He's a guy that sort of popped for me and everything else I did. I missed some of those really advantageous early Hoagie numbers. So now just deciding whether I want to suck it up and bite the bullet here, Andy. Moving a little farther down the board, Justin Suh, if you could trust his putter, he'd be a guy I'd love to be attacking this week. Davis Thompson, feel like I've been stuck
Your
on
guy.
him in the swing season. He seems like such a well-rounded player, but does he do what you have specifically narrowed in on, what will be required good enough to win this exact event? But I feel like I will be on Davis throughout the swing season, and honestly don't expect they're in Vegas, and the peace of mind for me that can come with not, I have to bet Davis Thompson. I will be sticking on to that ladder this week, Andy, and going a little farther back. Once again, Sam Ryder, who was on my betting card last week, has my attention. A lot of these West Coast guys seems to be very comfortable finding himself again. I'm encouraged at any Ryder number north of 60.
I think you nailed it. Like, I think the important thing to keep in mind this fall swing is like, now is your opportunity, right? Like if you've been tracking a player closely, if you've been on a guy, if you've been following a player, if you are higher on him than market, now is the time to try and capitalize, right? Like there are 3 guys that I bet last week at the Sanderson Farms, all that finished top 25, that are all at bigger numbers this week that I'm sticking with, right? Alex Smalley, I bet last week at 40-1. If you liked Alex Smalley at 40-1 last week, why don't you like him at 60-1 this week on a similar golf course after he just finished 16th at the Sanderson Farms? Mark Hubbard, another guy. Mark Hubbard finished 1 stroke out of the playoff last week. I bet him at 45-1 last week. I know this field is a little bit stronger. After he almost led the field in approach and just missed the playoff by 1 stroke, I'll gladly take the exact same number on Hubbard at 45-1 once again. And then Peter Kuest, I loved him at 71 last week. The guy finished top 25. He's double the number. He's 150-1. So like, these are the guys that like, I just think Peter Kuest is good. I think that it's just a pure talent play for me at this point. So if they're ever going to win, now is the opportunity in these weaker field events before we get into January, which is,
and you sort of like hit the nail on the head here. I assume anyone who's watching this as a golf fan follows the tour a bit. If you were betting Eric Cole last week at 20, are you turning him down this week at 40 at a course that's just going to be in the nice position on the fairway and hit it to 12 feet all week? Emiliano Grillo, he was like 25-1 last week. He's 45-1 this week. I love Oberg. I love Tom Kim, but are they, does like Ludwig's skill set alone, you could argue doesn't fit here, where you're just getting value on these guys anyway. SH Kim went off as low as 25 last week, Andy. I'm seeing him flirt north of 50 looking at the odds checker grid. So you're absolutely right. You choose your own adventure. And maybe if guys didn't play as well as some of the players you mentioned, like Alex Smalley, who I was on as well, but some of these number week to week situations you could really take advantage of. And I wouldn't be surprised one bit if it's a guy that let people down last week winning at double the number this week.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a golf tournament that we've seen in the past. Like, it doesn't really do the best job of separating elite tee to green play from middling tee to green play. It is so dependent on putting. So I think that should encourage us to take a couple more shots farther down the board. I'll give a shout to Bezuidenhout as well. If you focus on those two things that I discussed earlier in terms of putting from 5 to 15 feet and wedge play from 100 to 150 yards, if golf was those 2 things only, Geoff, then Bezuidenhout would be like the best player in the world. I think that this is a perfect golf course for him, coming off a 6th place finish at the Sanderson Farms, where he gained over 4.7 strokes on approach, has a 20th place finish here last year already. I would add him to the mix as well, but anyone else you want to give a shout to before we get out of here?
No, but as we've sort of wrapped up this conversation, I feel like I'm going to be fully invested 40 to 80-1.
Yeah.
Maybe even a bigger card than I may have anticipated, Andy. And I'll say that simply because there are guys I'd like this week for the setup, but then there are players, as you mentioned, like Alex Smalley, who I was on last week, and I don't think I can get off. Responsibly, card might be a little bigger than I had anticipated in Vegas. And hey, guy like Tom Hoagie, he's gonna be grinding because he's got to win it, whatever crabs table to 4 a.m. When you bet on Tom Hoagie at the Shriners, those are the variables. Like, was that a good run, a bad run? He's gonna be happy. You never know.
Speaking of responsible, it is time for Geoff and I to watch some football. So make sure to go and check out that weekly contest that we are running once again for Odds Checker. All of the info you need is in the link in that description. For me, I'm Andy Lack. That is Geoff Fienberg. We will see you next week, I believe, at the Zozo Championship. Until then, best of luck with your bets this week.